Hi everyone, Drini here, and welcome to my channel. So while the bear market sucks, and while our portfolios are currently being ravaged by a lot of macroeconomic factors to the downside, there's a huge silver lining to a bear market. Bear markets allow us to step back, have an honest assessment of the industry that we're in order to map out what are the potential high-value plays moving forward. So today we're going to talk about an honest criticism of the play-to-earn industry. Because at its current state, the play-to-earn gaming industry is really not going to make it if things continue the way they are. 99.99% of these projects are guaranteed to fail because of certain systemic shortfalls due to concepts that really look good on paper but upon the application in the real world faced some harsh adversarial issues that unfortunately at its current state, the industry unfortunately is not able to overcome for now. So before we dive into the honest criticisms or the honest assessment of the industry, it is first important to take a step back and establish what the promise of the industry was. The play-to-earn industry was supposed to be a revolution against monolithic, centralized AAA developers consistently extracting value from players without giving them anything in return. Not only that, the games that they're currently offering are becoming more compartmentalized, where microtransactions abound. Content is being cut up in order to maximize the revenues per user, forcing them to pay more than the bargain $60 for a particular game. So while the promise of play-to-earn games were very sound, the industry did have a couple of main challenges that unfortunately it is not able to overcome. So the first major problem that the industry faced was because of the high stakes of having a play-to-earn economy, games cannot screw up by having bugs and glitches that would pretty much break the game. If, for example, you have a game-breaking bug where you can duplicate as many items as you can, the exploiter will be able to flood that particular NFT marketplace with those said items, reap the rewards from that, and pretty much leave the game broken. Because of the high stakes involved, most NFT games that have been released so far are very basic. They are either auto-clickers or have very simplistic arcade-like rules, which really dampen the player experience. In fact, 90% of these things can hardly be considered as games. The second problem that the play-to-earn industry is currently facing is twofold. These games have been front-run by guilds and professional players or scholars, and because of the game's simplicity, bots have also overridden most of the playing experience for these particular games. Now, on their own, they're not necessarily problems. Guilds and their respective scholars, for example, keep the game active, keep the experience active so that as a player, you always have somebody to play with. Bots for certain games are actually okay because at the end of the day, would you prefer waiting for 10-15 minutes for a match to happen, or do you just want to play with a bot for a very basic game mechanic? So on their own, they do have their benefits when it comes to really filling up the ecosystem so that you always have an active experience. The problem is, for most games out there, guilds, scholars, and bots have unfortunately overridden the system, so to speak. There are too many of them, and there are too few independent players, or better yet, there are too few middle-class independent players to help sustain the economy of the game. The main problem with having a bot ecosystem or having guilds and professional players is the game actually gets corrupted. Because for these two paradigms, they have no choice but to extract value out of the game because they have to make ROI, they have to make their quotas via the earning of the currency that the game provides them. So the project transforms from being a game to actually being a gold mine. Most of the actors involved no longer care about the gaming experience. Instead, the key question or the key issue that they have is how much value can I extract from this particular project before I move on to the next one. The best way to illustrate this is if you look, for example, at SLP, once the game started to become popular at around July, suddenly you have a massive downtrend. Why? Because most of Axie's player base involves scholars and guilds. And scholars and guilds have to make the ROI work, otherwise they won't be able to function anymore. And what do you have? You have the consistent value extraction of SLP, and this particular currency kept getting dumped into the market, thereby losing its value continuously. And this particular phenomenon started when the crypto market was still in a bull market. So what more where we are in a downtrend and we are in a bear market, the dump continues because the current ecosystem paradigm for Axie Infinity is a lot of its players are currently playing for the sake of ROI, not because they enjoy the game. The third major issue that a lot of play-to-earns currently experience is because of the deflationary nature of the NFT assets. Because in order to drive value, you have to make particular assets scarce. A lot of speculation drove the price up for the NFT assets. When you look at the Carabada marketplace, you have crabs costing as much as $1,000 per crab. So for Wonder Hero, for example, my personal team took me around $800 to $1,000 in order to be competitive in the higher ranks. In Splinterlands, for example, for you to be a Maverick, you have to have purchased a minimum of 1,000 decks. Each pack is $4. So for you to have a minimum viable deck in order to compete on the highest difficulties or the highest leagues, it takes around $4,000 to $8,000 in order to be competitive. So for a normal player, for a normal gamer, the barrier to entry is very high. And for the people who purchase these assets, they now have no choice but to keep extracting value from the game economy because they have to recoup the massive investments that they gain. That leads to more sell-off of the currency that gets earned, contributing to this positive feedback loop of I need to buy expensive assets for the game, which costs me a lot of money, so now I need to sell off what I earn instead of holding it and preserving its value because other people, like guilds, professional players, bots, are doing the same exact thing of lowering the price because they keep dumping it into the market. So now I have no choice but to also sell off my stuff because I don't want to keep hoarding that particular currency and be the last man in the market to sell it because by then there will no longer be any value for the thing that I have invested so much time in. So with Play-to-Earn's current state, these are the three main problems that the industry is facing. It is actually not surprising then that the gaming crypto industry has been outrightly rejected by the traditional gamers, led by their respective high priest YouTubers, and it's no fault of their own. Currently, games in the first generation of play-to-earn games can hardly be called games. With a few exceptions, most of them are really just glorified auto-clickers. The second one is because of the main issues that were highlighted, games were milked dry by their respective users. Whether or not they wanted to do so, they really had no choice here because the ecosystem incentivizes dumping these tokens into the marketplace, thereby diminishing the value of the particular ecosystem. So now that we have an honest assessment of the industry, it will then allow us to craft a revised thesis for future investments in the play-to-earn industry and the metaverse. That will be for another video, so watch out for the next one. Yo, before you go, like this video, subscribe, and share this video to your friends. Thank you very much and have a good day.